Hello, it's Ashton Lewis.
And I'm Daphne Lynn.
And you are listening to the
NDE World Podcast.
Welcome to the NDE World Podcast. I am your host, Ashton Lewis. In the studio with me, I have my lovely hostess, Miss Daphne Lynn. Hello, Miss Daphne Lynn.
Hello, Ashton Lewis. How are you today?
I'm fantastic, baby. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking. I'm ready for today's episode. We had touched on it at the end of our last episode about the devil within. So I'm really interested to see what this chapter on the Universal Oneness has to say about all of this. And I'm really thinking that we might need to put our boots on for this one.
Y'all put y'all boots on. Gonna get deep.
We may be stepping on some toes, but keep in mind, this is just information.
Maybe
Okay.
stepping on some people's belief systems, not on people's toes.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah,
That's
and
exactly
really
what
I'm
it
referring
is.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this character, the devil, I mean, when you think of that
The
or hear
devil.
that name, the devil, yes, the devil.
Everything is the devil to you, mama!
It's going to conjure up some kind of something within your psyche. And we're going to jump into that actual, topic here in today's episode. But before we get started, let's go and kind of put a plug for the actual NDE.world website, where you can actually find information on anything related to the, spiritual world, the near-death experience world, the supernatural world, the paranormal world, anything concerning spirituality, consciousness growth, enlightenment, anything that we can do to really upgrade the actual world that we're living in, one person at a time.
Raising the consciousness now, that's what it's about.
Yeah, and we're also in the process, you can go to the actual website, nde.world, for more information, but we are in the process of also starting a UDO page, that's strictly all of these, Universal Divine Oneness type information and things like that. Also, guys, while you're at the website, don't forget to click the bookstore link and go check out the books. There's books in there that will change your life. And actually, the books that we're going over today in today's episode, and actually in this whole series, you can find on the website as well, nde.world. And it is, it's all about UDO. That's one that we cover. There's the laws. I think like 300 universal laws.
Divine laws.
Yeah, we do go over that one. The devil within us all is another good one. We'll be touching base on that today as well.
Yeah, there's so many good books there, and if you have a suggestion for a book, because we are all the time uploading book links to the website, because we are turned on to books all the time. And add to it, just in relation
to. A lot of our guests too are authors as well, so we'd like to try to help them out,
exactly.
promote their books as well. So, all right, let's jump into the subject at hand here today. Chapter 4 is titled "The Devil Within: Facing the Shadows and Understanding the Metaphor of the Devil Within." Okay, now before we get too far into this, I want to read a little clip here from the actual book. That you can get this on the NDE.world website bookstore. It's from The Devil Within. And let me just kind of give you a different perspective on things, because, typically especially because the world is predominantly Christianity, there is this concept or this perception of the external, the monster or the angelic or the fallen or the bad spirit, the Satan, the devil, the horns, the pitchfork, the tails. There's so many different concepts and ideas, and people don't really even think about or really know just where this concept came from. And it does have its roots. It is a topic for another episode, because we can get sidetracked just on the history of the devil and Satan. But what is the devil, guys? What does it all stem from? Well, everything is mind. Okay, there's no such thing as the devil. Everything is consciousness. Everything vibrates. Okay, there's the high and there's the low. You have to have one to understand the other. You have to have the darkness to understand the light. You have to have the evil to understand the love. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's the yin and yang, or the yin and yang, however you want to say it. it's one cannot exist without the other. So the devil is part of within us. It's that ego. It's the separation from God. Okay, it's the part that you identify as that is your lowest vibration towards your darkest self. Okay, we're going to approach it from that perspective. Just keep that in mind. Like I said, this is going to, like Daphne said, put your boots on, because it's going to challenge your belief system. But we're going to approach this concept, the devil, as you, the ego within you, the darkness within you that has lost its way from oneness.
Right. And, there's many of our listeners out there that are aware of this. They are resonating at a higher level. They understand this, maybe from their experience or just in their learning and growing in spiritual matters through their life. So there are those that are very aware that the devil, the Satan, is not real, like an external entity in hell,
Fighting against God.
And trying to win the souls of every human on the earth.
All that stuff has a story, a historical starting point as well.
Exactly. And then there's those that we're going to be stepping on belief systems.
Yeah, and that's
not okay,
our purpose.
because it helps you to grow.
Yeah, and our purpose is not out here to step on people's belief systems or to challenge it. It's just to bring awareness, to
raise the consciousness
the big picture.
of it.
And if it's something you can grow and you can just meditate on, hey, you don't have to accept it.
No.
But guess what? There's a lot to this stuff, and we're not just waking up one day and say, hey, let's start a podcast and kind of share something. No, this is stuff I've been studying this stuff for probably 40 plus years, and Daphne for I don't know how long, but for quite a while herself. So this is not just something we're just throwing out there. So just really listen to it, let it resonate, take what you can, let the rest go, and when you are ready, it'll all vibrate. It will make sense.
It'll resonate. It'll make sense to you. Yeah. You'll be like, oh, it'll just like the light switch going off. Oh, okay, I get that.
Just like Jesus is not in you, okay? And Christ is not Jesus. Jesus is not Christ, okay? Christ is that UDO. It's that consciousness. It's that universal highest form of vibration that we can be. It's what we call God. It's the Christ consciousness. It's the highest. Well, in order for the Christ consciousness to even exist, there has to be its opposing, polarity. It's that dark part of the ego. It's that dark side of us, okay? So just like Jesus is an archetype or an analogy for the good within us all, and has been personified into that, just like that, well, Satan or the devil is the dark side of humanity that's within all of us, okay, that has been personified into a character based on, different historical entities and creatures and things like that. From, Zoroastrianism, it starts a lot of, back up in there, but, you get into Pan, the one that played the flute, all the animals followed around. I think a lot of the hoofed images of Satan, I think, stemmed from that. But I don't. That's like I said, we can do a whole episode on that. But the point is, in this episode, within this context, okay, the devil is within all of us. Okay, so let's kind of break it down, and maybe it'll make more sense. Here we go. Now, let's set an introduction here. It says that in the tapestry of human existence, few threads are as persistent and as insidious as the darkness that resides within us all. This darkness, often termed as the devil within, is not a foreign entity, but a reflection of our own inner turmoil and separation from the divine oneness that binds all existence. It is a profound misperception of our true nature, one that has evolved over millennia, deeply entrenched in our cultural, religious, and personal narratives. Just keep in mind before we get too far that there's a lot of mythology, psychology, spirituality, that supports all this, the dark nature that's, within us all. Now, the concept of a devil or a Satan figure is not confined to any single religion or culture. It is a universal archetype, a symbol that appears across various traditions and belief systems. It is a universal archetype, a symbol that appears across various traditions and belief systems, each offering a unique perspective on the nature of evil and its origins. From the fiery pits of hell in the Christian doctrine to the trickster demons of ancient folklore, these figures represent the shadowy aspects of the human psyche, the ego.
I was talking about that yesterday.
The separate self that drives us away from our true essence. At its core, the devil within is not an external adversary, but an internal force that arises from our separation from the oneness of all. It is the manifestation of our ego, a construct of the mind that perceives itself as separate from others, from the world, and from the divine. This illusion of separateness is the root cause of many of our struggles and conflicts. It fosters selfishness, fear, and division, creating a world where we often feel isolated and disconnected. It says here, I'm going to leave you with this thought, the origins of the devil, a historical and cultural perspective. To understand the devil within, we must first explore the origins of devil figures across various cultures and religions. The concept of a devil or a satanic figure has appeared in numerous forms throughout history, often embodying the fears and anxieties of the societies that created them. In ancient Persia, the figure of Angra Mainyu or Ahriman represented the destructive spirit in opposition to the divine creator Ahura Mazda. In Zoroastrianism, this dualistic struggle between good and evil reflects the inner conflict between our higher and lower selves. In Judeo-Christian traditions, the devil is often personified as Satan, a fallen angel who rebelled against God. This figure embodies the archetype of the adversary, the tempter who seeks to lead humanity astray. The Christian depiction of hell and eternal damnation underscores the severity of the separation from divine grace. However, these religious narratives also reflect the internal struggle between our higher aspirations and our lower impulses. Similarly, in other cultures, such as those in Hinduism and Buddhism, demonic figures like Asuras and Mara represent obstacles to spiritual enlightenment. These figures are not merely external threats, but are deeply connected to the psychological and spiritual challenges faced by individuals on their path to self-realization. I just want to throw that in there, and that's just really scraping the surface on that book as well, but I just kind of want to put that in there that, you know, there's a lot to the devil and this devil character, and it goes on, like it says here, the devil as the ego is that next section. I could have kept on reading it, but we kind of pretty much covered that today, but it says understanding the separate self. And that's what the devil is. So
yeah,
it goes on, and like it brings out here that we will examine the historical and cultural origins of the devil figures, exploring the nature of the ego, and provide practical guidance on how to transcend these limitations and reconnect with our divine essence. So
nice.
That's just kind of like a little introduction there. Now, moving on here, chapter 4, it says that the metaphor of the quote-unquote devil within serves as a powerful illustration of the darker aspects of the ego. Just as the devil is often depicted as a malevolent force that seeks to lead individuals astray, the devil within represents the negative traits and destructive behaviors rooted in the ego that can sabotage our well-being and spiritual growth. This internal adversary manifests as fears, insecurities, and unhealthy desires that undermine our true self and hinder our progress towards enlightenment. In many spiritual and psychological traditions, the concept of an inner devil or shadow self is used to describe the parts of ourselves that we may not fully acknowledge or embrace. These aspects of the ego often operate beneath the surface, influencing our thoughts and actions in subtle yet profound ways. By recognizing and confronting these darker elements, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and work toward healing and transformation.
Yeah, it really makes me think of how we live in either fear or love. And just a quick read from the Conversations with God. Now, I really just found this really interesting. We operate out of fear or love in all things that we do. An excerpt from the Conversations with God in Book 1 says that just as you have chosen to personify pure love as the character you call God, so have you chosen to personify abject fear as the character you call the devil.
There you go. That's exactly what we're saying, yeah.
Everything is personifications.
Exactly. That's how
constructs, man-made
were
constructs.
created to begin with, correct. They had to explain the elements and the things happening and this and that. So that's how gods were created. Mm-hmm. They were personified. That's why look at all your Greek gods and your Roman gods, and all of them are human.
Demigods.
Yeah.
Jesus is a demigod.
Jesus is a demigod, yeah.
But people don't look at it like that.
No.
No. But when I say Jesus, I know which one I'm talking about. The constructed one, not the man that walked the earth.
Right. There's a difference in the two.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And as you become spiritually mature, you start to learn. Yeah, that's all.
Oh,
yeah.
Most definitely.
Everybody is where they need to be. They're right where they need to be.
You are what you're creating your world to be.
Yeah. And those who are searching are, it's going to be brought to you as you need it.
Most definitely.
Now, moving on, it says the nature of the inner devil.
Ooh.
The inner devil is not a separate entity, but rather an intrinsic part of the ego's darker side. It embodies the traits and tendencies that perpetuate suffering and conflict in our lives. This inner devil thrives on negative emotions such as anger, envy, and fear, using them to create discord and division within ourselves and in our relationships with others. Understanding the nature of this inner adversary is essential for addressing its impact and fostering personal growth. The inner devil often manifests through various ego-driven behaviors that undermine our sense of harmony and connection. These behaviors can be subtle or overt, but they all share a common root in the ego's need for validation, control, and separation. By examining these behaviors, we can gain insight into the ways in which the inner devil influences our lives and relationships. Daphne?
Yes, this is something that, we have to realize that our inner self is creating the darker inner self, that separateness. And it is the ego's need for like it just brought out, the validation and control. But it's all stemmed from that separation mindset that is ingrained in us. And we have to unthread it. We have to take those steps, action steps, to become one again. Raise our consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to take every person, one person at a time. We say that all the time. It starts with you. Mm-hmm. It all starts with you guys. Now, how do you know what the ego looks like? How do you know somebody's operating through the ego? And what about different behaviors? Maybe even yourself. Okay, just do some soul searching. If it is, these are areas you can work on. But maybe even know somebody like this or have experienced this. And let's take a look at how do you know it's ego driven.
Okay, just looking ahead at these subtitles along this, I have seen myself in every single one of these. And when you can realize your own darkness and change that, then you're on your path. And most of us don't like to admit our darkness, our faults.
Oh no, it's easy to point.
I'm good. Well, you bad too.
Yeah.
Because that's the polarity. That's the light and the dark within us all.
And the question is, where are you going to function from? Your dark side, or the light. Well, how do we know? Let's look at some examples. Number one, narcissism.
What?
And self-centeredness. Now, narcissists are the hardest people, some of the hardest people to deal with. That's a different subject for a different episode.
Right. Most definitely.
It says here that narcissism is a prime example of ego-driven behavior that reflects the devil within. Narcissistic individuals are excessively preoccupied with themselves and their own needs, often to the detriment of others. This self-centeredness can manifest as a lack of empathy, an inflated sense of entitlement, and a constant need for admiration and validation. The impact of narcissism on relationships is significant, as it can lead to a pattern of manipulation, exploitation, and emotional abuse. Narcissistic individuals may struggle to form genuine connections with others, as their focus on their own needs and desires often overshadows their ability to engage in meaningful, reciprocal relationships. This behavior reinforces the illusion of separateness and perpetuates feelings of isolation and alienation. So, let's talk a little bit about that one, Daphne. What really comes to my mind when you're talking to a narcissistic type person that's speaking from their devil within, as long as the narcissist is talking and center of attention and gets to say whatever they want, doesn't matter, don't care about who or whatever, they're going to say whatever they want. Anytime you intervene or try to say something, they'll turn on you. Like the Bible says, don't cast your pearl to swine. So you have to be tuned in yourself at a level of discernment to be able to see through the narcissistic type behaviors in people. It's a very very damaging type of personality.
It is, and it's all ego-driven behavior. It's all it is, and that reflects Satan, the devil within.
Absolutely. Moving right on along. Judgment and criticism is another one that is ego. If you are a judgmental person, okay, if you have things to say about anybody, and it's any kind of negative in any kind of way, that's ego. That's the devil. You are the devil.
You're the devil.
You got
what
it?
movie is that from? The Devil.
The Water Boy.
Yes.
Everything is the devil to you, mama!
You are the devil if you are a narcissistic person or you're functioning through the devil. Now, judgment and criticism. If you judge people, criticize people, guess what? You are Satan. You're the devil. That's the devil within you that you are functioning through. I don't know if this is any of this making sense yet, but it is the ego, that separateness. Mm-hmm. That's why you're doing these kind of things. The illusion of separateness. You're not in tune with your oneness.
I'm going to say this before we even get into the judgment and criticism section. When I was going to the church regularly, faithfully, in the Word daily, like you're supposed to be, according to the indoctrinations, I was the most judgmental person in the sense that my church had the ultimate truth. And if you didn't believe the way that I believed, I'm judging you. You're going to burn in hell because you don't believe what I believe.
Welcome to mainstream religion.
I was that
Yeah.
when I was in the church.
Which is not of God.
And then yet in the Bible it tells you, don't be judging, but yet that's what every individual does when they say, we have the truth.
Or
the only way
yeah.
to God. You are judging and condemning others because of the dogma that you're fed and intake.
Yeah, that's ego.
Exactly.
That's the devil.
That's the ego. That's the devil within. Since I've gotten out of the church, I have freed myself from that judgmental and critical attitude toward others.
You're understanding more of the oneness.
Exactly. Yes. Oh my gosh, and it is so light on my heart.
Yeah, and it should be.
It's very free and forgiving.
Yeah. And also that fear of being tortured.
Yeah,
and
the
tormented,
fear is completely gone.
The mind control that these cults have created, and the whole world
Right.
thinks like that now. So that is another subject for a different episode. So let's talk a little bit about this judgment and criticism. It says that judgment and criticism are other manifestations of the inner devil that stem from the ego's need to assert its superiority and control. You know, there's people out there that has to control everything.
Control freaks.
The superiority complex, that's ego. It's ego-driven. You get a superiority complex and a control freak that is also narcissistic.
Oh, you're
in trouble, guys. When individuals engage in judgmental or critical behavior, they often do so to reinforce their own sense of self-worth and to establish a hierarchy of value and importance. A lot of people will put other people down because it creates this sense of I can, lift myself up by putting other people down. Boy, it's just backfiring. You have no clue what you're doing to yourself.
Exactly, yeah.
This behavior can have a detrimental effect on both personal relationships and self-esteem. Judgment and criticism can create a toxic environment where individuals feel constantly scrutinized and devalued. It can lead to conflict, resentment, and a breakdown in communication as individuals become defensive and disconnected from one another. I've seen it time and time again.
Me too.
By perpetuating a cycle of negativity and comparison, judgment and criticism further entrench the ego's self of separateness and division.
Wow.
Now, before we get too much further, Daphne, I just want to make a quick comment that, we're talking about this narcissist, the judgmental personality, all this and that. These aren't particular people. It may have sounded like that when I made the comment a while ago that, I've ran into these. But there are people who identify more with that part of themselves, okay? The point is, these are characteristics that are in all of us, okay? So I just wanted to put that out there, that when we're saying, no, that person is a narcissist. No, we all are narcissists in our own way, okay? That we need to bring to the forefront when we start doing our self-meditation, self-awareness and all, and get that under control within ourselves.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought that out, because that same thought was running through me as well, because we are all of these, all
Correct.
of us, because it's in all of us, because we're all the same, we're all one, so it's in all of us.
Yeah, unless you have been enlightened. Once you become totally enlightened,
then you can
no longer
clear the
function
clutter
through the ego. Yeah, and so that's what this is all about. We all function through that ego. Therefore, we all have these different aspects of that part of our the human psyche.
Most of us do identify with the ego, the story, your life, history.
Who you think you are,
the play that you're living, but that's not who you truly are. You are that self that is within that higher consciousness.
The awareness.
That all of our NDEers come back talking about.
Yes. Well, this next section is fear and anxiety. Go figure.
The opposite of love.
Fear and anxiety are powerful drivers of ego-driven behavior that reflect the inner devil's influence. The ego is inherently fearful of losing control, experiencing failure, or facing the unknown. This fear can manifest as anxiety, worry, depression, anger, avoidance, leading individuals to engage in behaviors that seek to protect themselves from perceived threats.
How many of us are walking around with those ailments, if you want to call it, that they live with daily?
Yeah.
Why? Because you're living in fear instead of love.
Yep. The impact of fear and anxiety on our lives can be profound, affecting our ability to take risks, pursue our goals, and experience joy. Fear-driven behavior often leads to missed opportunities, self-sabotage, and a general sense of dissatisfaction and unhappiness. By succumbing to the devil within, individuals may find themselves trapped in a cycle of avoidance and insecurity that prevents them from fully embracing their potential and living authentically.
All because you're identifying with the ego.
And think about this. The fear is what the religion feeds. The ego keeps you in fear. As long as you're living in fear, you're not embracing the God within. You're not embracing your full potential and living, like it says, authentically. You're living through an ego-driven fear that has been really spellbound on all of us. We've all been hoodwinked.
Exactly.
I mean, they don't tell us this kind of stuff in school.
Right. They even tell you to fear
Even
the
God.
Creator, the
Yeah.
God, that divine essence.
Yes.
And in all honesty, it should be in awe of, in reverence to, not in fear of, because fear lowers your vibration.
Yeah, and you have to, in fact, I'm glad you mentioned that. We had one of our guest speakers a while back in one of the interviews that they had said that when you go and do the research on the original meaning of the word fear, okay, it is to be, like you said, in awe of, inspired and just like, wow. That's the original meaning. However, I guess I don't know if the church got a hold of it, probably, but anyway, it's been twisted and turned around to the point now where this is fear God. It's like, oh, I'm scared. God's going to torture me and burn me, and I got to be good. I got to.
And I can remember myself loving and serving God out of fear, because I didn't want to be tortured in a fiery place of torment because I wasn't doing what God said.
Yeah.
Or living in a way that was up to His standards. I was serving out of fear.
Yeah.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
I don't have to see. I live it. And have lived it.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been on both sides.
It lowers your vibration. It's not living in, oh, wow, I love God, that divine essence, because of what it is. Because I am that. I am experiencing life for the Creator.
And all of my brothers and sisters, whether human or animal or nature, form, whatever it comes in, it's all God.
Think
it's
about this. God is all that there is. That divine essence is in everything. So God is all there is.
It is. And I am.
So why would it punish or torture itself?
Yeah. It'll get you thinking.
It sure will. Put your boots on. And your thinking caps on.
Yeah. Moving on along. Anger and resentment. Any of you guys are carrying anger or resentment, guess what? You're the devil. The devil.
I'm thinking about immediately, just in my walk, I've done like regression therapies before, NLP techniques. I can remember feeling like I was a ticking time bomb, ready to explode at any time. And then going through this therapy, it helped me to release that anger and that fear that I was living in.
Yeah. And that's coming from ego.
Exactly.
And if you also, it says resentment, so a lot of people have a resentment towards others. Let me go ahead and just read it real quick here. It says anger and resentment are manifestations of the inner devil that arise from the ego's inability to accept and process negative emotions constructively. Think about that. When individuals allow anger and resentment to fester, they can become overwhelmed by these emotions, leading to destructive behaviors and strained relationships. The impact of unchecked anger and resentment can be far-reaching, causing harm to both oneself and others. Anger can lead to conflict, aggression, and violence, while resentment can create a sense of bitterness and dissatisfaction. By addressing and transforming these emotions, individuals can begin to heal and foster more harmonious and supportive relationships.
Yeah, you gotta let it go.
Yeah. So you can see
Don't
if you're a
hold on to
violent
it.
person, if you're acting through violence, and guess what? That's the evil within. That's the Satan within. So you're operating through ego. There's nothing about God in you when you are functioning through any of these states and emotions.
Think about taking it to the Bible. Release all anger. Let go of anger. Let go. How many times does it say in Scripture, fear not?
Yeah, that's
think
a good
about that.
point. Maybe you can do that on a little side project one day or something, just to kind of see, and how many times it comes up. You never know.
Oh, yeah.
The next one says attachment and desire. Now, how can you think of attachment and desire being part of the devil? Well, the ego's attachment to material possessions. Okay, everything around us is part of the ego-driven world that feeds off of your senses and makes you want material possessions. It appeals to the eyes or the smell, the nose, the hearing, the whatever. Like it says here, it's material possessions, not spiritual. Most people are thriving after the wind. They're thriving after material gain, material possessions. They have no clue about what's real as far as the oneness of all. The ego's attachment to material possessions, status, okay, and recognition is another example of the devil within at work. The pursuit of external achievements, think about that, and possessions often stems from a deep-seated desire for validation and self-worth. This attachment can create a sense of never-ending dissatisfaction and craving, as the ego constantly seeks more to fulfill its perceived needs. The impact of attachment and desire on one's life can be significant, leading to a focus on external achievements at the expense of inner fulfillment. This pursuit can create a sense of emptiness and lack, as individuals become trapped in a cycle of craving and acquisition. By recognizing and addressing these attachments, individuals can begin to shift their focus toward more meaningful and sustainable sources of fulfillment.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, let's, just for a little plug, a lot of times ego could be stemmed from a damaged ego, like a child.
Childhood trauma.
Yeah, or never got the validity or that love, and maybe they try to, fill that with these material things, that validation kind of, so we don't really know everybody's story on why they are like they are. But we do know that they are operating from a selfish perspective. It's from the ego. It's all about them instead of realizing that, hey, no, it's really all about all of us because we all are one. So no matter how you look at it. Now, confronting the devil within. Now, we talk a lot about this on this podcast. Awareness and self-reflection. Now, confronting the devil within requires a commitment to self-awareness and self-reflection. By examining one's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, individuals can begin to identify the ways in which the inner devil influences their lives. This process involves acknowledging and accepting the darker aspects of the ego, rather than denying or repressing them. Self-reflection can be facilitated through practices such as journaling, meditation, and introspection. By exploring the root causes of ego-driven behaviors and emotions, individuals can gain insight into their underlying motivations and patterns. This awareness is the first step in addressing and transforming the devil within.
Right. We say it all the time, start a meditation practice, start journaling, let go of those fears and anxieties, get it out, connect with the spirit, write it out. When you write, it is connecting the hand action motion and stimulating the mind, which is spirit. It connects and you can let that out and let it go. That's why journaling is so self-healing. I do it on a regular basis.
Yeah, you do.
And I just started this, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. So, yeah, it really does help.
Yeah, it really does. It's part of growing. And but that self-awareness, guys, you're not going to be able to change until you have to become self-aware. Ask some of your most loving, loyal friends or family members if they can be honest with you without your ego getting
in the way and you get defensive and angry at them.
Yeah. But, if you can accept it, an honest friend will honestly tell you what they think about you. But, it really is, ultimately, it's up to you. It's up to you.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
It doesn't matter what somebody else thinks of you or believes about you. You are your own being, your own God. You have to do you the best way you can. Be who you are, no matter what that is.
Yeah.
Because you are expressing and experiencing life for the Creator.
Yeah, you have to love all.
Harm none.
And harm none. Love
including
all
yourself.
Includes you. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Transformation and healing. Once individuals have gained awareness of the devil within, okay, the next step is to engage in practices that promote transformation and healing.
Yep.
This involves working to shift negative patterns and behaviors and cultivating more positive and constructive qualities.
Yes, this is what I was saying on a previous episode. Sit down, and how many of us have done a pros and cons list in trying to make a decision about something? Sit down, this is my good aspects, this is my bad aspects, my qualities, whatever you want to call it.
What serves and what doesn't,
Exactly. How can you work on and heal the negative and become more positive?
That's right. That's right. And that's what this is really saying. Forgiveness and compassion. There's one that's really hard for people.
Yes.
Forgiveness and compassion are essential components of the transformation process. By practicing forgiveness toward oneself and others, individuals can release the hold of anger, resentment, and judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Compassion allows individuals to approach their own shortcomings and those of others with kindness and understanding, rather than criticism and condemnation.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, and it does start with self. You have to be forgiving of yourself as well. I mean, we've all done stupid stuff.
Yeah.
It's about learning and growing. So forgive yourself for anything that you may have done to harm yourself.
Or someone else.
Well, it starts with self and then
but if you
outward.
have someone else, definitely, if
yeah,
you can,
and
forgive
them. Go to them. Hey, forgive me. I was young. I was stupid. Or if it's now, hey, I'm sorry.
Or if somebody did something to you.
Exactly. Forgive them for hurting you, and if you're not able to go to that person, still forgive.
And if you're hurting, it's probably ego.
Oh yeah.
Because that's where all this comes from. When you realize that, hey, I am God and I am one, I am divine, I'm one with the all and nothing but love. When you can build up that shield around you, nothing will faze you.
Right.
When you're walking, from what I understand, the enlightened ones, nothing can faze them. You're not fazed by anything.
Right.
Of the dark side.
Right.
Now, keep in mind, and there's some pun intended, mindfulness, okay, and emotional regulation. Now, mindfulness, guys, you have to be mindful of your behaviors and things like that. But let's see what it says. Mindfulness and emotional regulation are crucial for managing the impact of the inner devil. Mm-hmm. Mindfulness practices help individuals stay present and aware of their emotions, allowing them to respond to challenging situations with greater clarity and composure. Yep. Emotional regulation techniques such as deep breathing and relaxation exercises can help individuals manage intense emotions and reduce the influence of the devil within.
Let go of the ego.
Gotta let it go.
Let go of my ego.
Gotta let it go. Cultivating positive qualities. Now, cultivating positive qualities such as love, empathy, and humility can help counteract the negative aspects of the ego. By focusing on these qualities, individuals can foster a sense of unity and interconnectedness, reducing the impact of the devil within. Practices such as gratitude, service, and self-care can support the development of these positive traits and enhance overall well-being.
That's right. Start putting into practice loving, giving, being empathetic toward others.
Awareness.
And humility. Humility starts within. You have to reflect.
Yeah, have that awareness of things around you, people around you, of your own behavior. Be mindful of all the things that you do,
Yeah.
And like it says here, daily. This is a daily thing, guys. This is integrating the principles of confronting and transforming the devil within into daily life is essential for maintaining progress and fostering lasting change. It's not something you want to do one time. This involves making conscious choices that reflect one's commitment to personal growth and spiritual development. Mm-hmm. By incorporating practices such as mindfulness, forgiveness, and positive self-care into daily routines, individuals can create a more harmonious and fulfilling life.
Oh, yeah.
And as always, there's going to be challenges. Now, what are some of these challenges and obstacles? Well, the process of confronting the devil within is not without its challenges and obstacles. The ego's resistance to change, fear of vulnerability, and attachment to familiar patterns can create significant hurdles on the path to transformation. Overcoming these challenges requires persistence, dedication, and a willingness to confront and address one's inner struggles.
Yep, it's self-reflect. You have to go within, and you're going to face those resistances from the ego. It's going to say, hey, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, you've heard the old expression, your inner demons. That's
right.
Well, that's what it's referring to.
Yeah, and I like the way it brings it out here. It does require you to be dedicated and persistent and have that willingness to confront and go within to address your own inner devil, your own inner struggles.
And you've got to, if you want to get to the Christ within.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maintaining commitment and persistence. Maintaining commitment and persistence is crucial for confronting the devil within and achieving lasting change.
Yeah.
The journey is a continuous process of self-discovery and growth, requiring ongoing effort and dedication. By staying focused on personal and spiritual goals, individuals can remain aligned with their true essence and continue progressing on their path to enlightenment. Alrighty, guys, looks like we've got time for a couple more here. It says that embracing the journey of confronting the devil within involves accepting it as a lifelong process of growth and transformation.
Mm-hmm.
It is not about achieving perfection, but about continually striving to become more aligned with one's true self and spiritual aspirations. By approaching the journey with openness, curiosity, and a willingness to learn, individuals can experience profound personal growth and spiritual fulfillment.
Yes, you can. And there's a word in here that really gets me thinking, how many people truly have spiritual aspirations? What are your spiritual goals? Do you have spiritual goals?
Good question. A lot of people don't even put time on even thinking about spiritual
no
things.
No personal growth.
Time into it. Yeah.
Nothing. They just living day to day.
Floating around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And truly happy that way. And it's like, myself, I like learning, growing, striving towards something. That's when I feel fulfilled, is when I feel like I'm growing.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to grow. You got to be growing or feel like you're growing. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, let's go ahead and, due to the time, everything looks good here. We're going to go ahead and read up this conclusion here. And you've got a couple little things I'd like you to share with the listeners real quick, if you don't mind.
Most definitely.
The devil within represents the darker aspects of the ego that influence our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. By understanding and confronting these inner shadows, individuals can gain insight into their own patterns and work toward transformation and healing. This chapter has explored various examples of ego-driven behaviors and their impact on our lives and relationships. The following chapters will provide further insights into practical strategies for managing the ego, calming the monkey mind, and adopting a healthy lifestyle that supports spiritual growth. As you continue on your journey to Universal Divine Oneness, aka UDO, remember that facing and transforming the devil within is a crucial step, guys, toward achieving inner peace, joy, and unity.
I have seen this in every chapter we've read so far. These are steps toward achieving that which we all want: peace, joy, and unity. At our core, that is something every human wants. And that's why this is at the end of every single chapter. Because we're trying to take those steps toward this for growth and ways to achieve inner peace, joy, and unity.
Very well said. While you're there, if you don't mind, go ahead and I just want the listeners to really take this in, this little thing here that you had read earlier. I really love that. But if you really think about it, and you can see just how far off we really are, but it'll get you thinking. Go ahead and share that, Daphne.
Yeah. Okay. Now this is from the Conversations Book 1, where Neil is conversing with Divine Essence, and he is sharing with Neil that he is an extension, an individuation of God. Okay, he says, I never thought of it that way. There just seems to be something vaguely blasphemous about that. Thinking that you're one, saying that you're God. Okay, isn't it interesting that you find nothing blasphemous about seeking to be like the devil, but seeking to be like God? offends you.
Think about that.
Think about that. I mean, really think about that. Neil says, now wait a minute, who's seeking to be like the devil? So Divine Essence says, you are. You all are. You've even created religions that tell you that you are born in sin, that you are all sinners at birth, in order to convince yourself of your own evil. Yet, if I told you you are born of God, that you are pure gods and goddesses at birth, pure love, you would reject me. All your life you have spent convincing yourself that you are bad. Not only that you are bad, but that things that you want are bad. Some of your religions even got you believing that dancing is bad, music is bad, celebrating life is bad. Soon you'll agree that smiling is bad, laughing is bad, loving is bad. No, my friend. You may not be very clear about many things, but about one thing you are clear. You and most of what you desire are bad. Having made this judgment about yourself, you have decided that your job is to get better. It's okay, mind you. It's the same destination in any event. It's just that there's a faster way, a shorter route with a quicker path.
Okay, would you like to sum that up, what you just read, in your own words?
Yeah, we've got to realize that when we say, or anybody says, you are Divine Essence, you are God, it's not blasphemous, because how many of us are out here doing bad and running, quote unquote, with the devil?
Yeah.
And it's okay to identify with that.
Yeah.
But you can't identify with God? That's blasphemous? No, I don't think so.
This shows you how far we've all been hoodwinked.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I like to use that word.
Hoodwinked.
Hoodwinked.
Yeah, so it's really just about identifying with the God within than with running with the devil. Yeah. Let go of the ego. Transcend that. And realize your own divinity. That way you can grow.
Well, any final comments, Miss Daphne, before we wrap up?
Yes, of course. The one thing we as humanity need to start doing is like in the conversations book where it says, find all the good within us, that we are all these things, and embrace the goodness, the God within, and let go of that devil that we keep identifying with, and start identifying with the divinity that is all things. Well said.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like I said earlier, it's not hard, guys. If you are identifying or conditioned that you are a sinner, you are born in sin, it ties into the lie of the original sin. No, that's all part of the indoctrination, guys.
Right.
Okay? And you realize that you are not a sinner. You are
an extension, expression of God.
A pure soul coming in with the law of autonomy. In other words, you are a built-in little machine to come in and do everything you need to do to function in every area of your life here in the world in a natural way.
Yes.
You are beautiful. You're a beautiful soul. You are the divine itself. You have to find the divinity within yourself. It's part of that identity. If you are identifying as a sinner, which most people do, okay, then you're going to act like a sinner. You're going to do sinner things. You're going to do harmful, egotistic things to yourself, to others.
Exactly.
And you're going to keep doing that. That's the devil within until you become enlightened and realize that, hey, you have to take on the self-responsibility and the self-discipline to put things into action. You can't be sitting around just really clinging on or riding the coattail of someone else that's supposed to have lived, 2,000 plus years ago, that died for you so you can do whatever you want. I have no disrespect for this concept because I've lived it all of my life.
Right.
I love the character that it represents, but I have a deeper understanding of what that character is and what it means. And the reality is, even that character itself taught how to live, told you what to do, how to eat, how to treat others, how to love, but are you doing it? That's
right.
If you're doing it, then fine. You're golden. You're good to go. Okay. But if your religion is a crutch to do, well, I'm saved, I'm covered by the blood, I can do whatever I want, you're mixed up. You are lost within the delusion. That is your ego deceiving you. I just want to leave them with that thought.
Yeah. Let go of the ego.
Let go of my ego.
Let go of my ego.
Perfect, guys. Don't forget to go to the website, NDE.world, for more information on who we are and what we do and all of that cool stuff. And please join our Facebook group, guys, and we'll get some really good conversations, interactions, and things like that going on. We'd be glad to answer any questions you guys have.
Yes.
And check out the podcast page, but you can get those links from the NDE.world website.
Yes.
Guys, we love you so much. So much. Thank you so much for tuning in. May peace be with you all until next time.
Y'all let your light shine.
Hello, you beautiful souls. Don't forget to visit the website, NDE.world. That is
NDE.world.